I heard we were getting Gargoyles Remastered for review, I jumped at the opportunity to pick this one up. For one, I love Gargoyles. I remembered loving a lot of parts of this game when I played it on the Sega Genesis in 1995. I also remembered it being ridiculously hard, a product of a certain era of tough-as-nails Disney games. Gargoyles Remastered affirmed these memories. Does this game hold up as well as the animated show?
Start hiring crews. I want to begin as soon as possible.
Or is it a dated outcast that should have remained in stone?
I'm afraid the gargoyles have outlived their usefulness. I can't count on their loyalty.
Find out in our review. Hey folks, if you enjoyed this video review, be sure to hit that like, subscribe, notification button. It's 3 small clicks for you, but means the world to us. Let's get started. Gargoyles Remastered is, as it was the Sega Genesis, an origin story of sorts for the main character Goliath. Players join the leader of the Gargoyles in a platforming action adventure that runs from medieval times against Vikings into modern times versus magical machines. Goliath is chasing after an artifact known as the Eye of Odin, which empowers both living and non-living things alike with evil energy, and he'll use all of his strength and agility as a stone sentinel to destroy it for good.
Let's go!
One of the most easily noticeable features of this remastered version of the game is the new art style. Gargoyles Remastered is presented in a fresh, clean, and widescreen style that looks far more reminiscent of a Saturday morning cartoon series than the original art style was. I really liked seeing Goliath far closer to how I remembered him in the show, and I also liked seeing much of the game's original concept revamped into that style, whether it was enemies or environments. For those who are purists and just want to play the original game as it was, the developers didn't entirely do away with the original art style. In fact, you can switch it pretty much at any point with a single button press dedicated to swapping back and forth between the modern and the classic style. I will say I actually had some issues with certain levels in the modern art style. There are swinging points that you have to jump to in order to traverse long gaps, and it was very difficult for me to see a few of them until I switched back to the original art, in which the handhold appeared very clearly. The soundtrack, including music and sound effects, also have modern and classic versions. Honestly, I wish I could mix and match them, because I love the modern art style, but I also think the classic sound effects were punchier. Goliath's death cry when he lost a life was spine-chilling in the original, and the characters also had more impact to them when you were slashing them to ribbons. I really like the modern music, but I think the sound effects lose out on that intensity. Gameplay in the Gargoyles was always a bit tough to handle, and for better or worse, that is entirely intact in Gargoyles Remastered. Of the ridiculous difficult Disney games that were coming out on the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo at the time, I think Gargoyles is just below the Lion King in its level of sheer soul-crushing difficulty. You can put the game on enhanced versions of easy, medium, or hard, or take its original difficulty. But even putting the game on easy doesn't keep certain platforming elements, enemy spawning, and collision detection in the game from being flaky at best and maddening at worst. You'll come up against an enemy in the game where you have to mash the attack button, but also inch toward them to keep them from staggering backwards out of your mash feast and belting Goliath upside his noggin for widely varied damage. You'll also have to do some complicated platforming that includes wall climbing, handhold swinging, jumping, and flapping through the air, and in many cases, just a single mistake could either kill Goliath or stagger your progress and leave you having to redo a lengthy section all over again. The developers must have been well aware of how hard Gargoyles is too, because in addition to the art style button in the game, there's a rewind button. If you end up in a bad situation or feel you could have overcome a tight spot with just a slightly different move, you can hold the rewind button to go back about 5 seconds. As fast as things can go wrong in this game, that's a decent amount of time to fix your mistakes. That said, I also wish the limit wasn't there and I could just rewind as I please, because the tail end of where you can rewind follows your progress in the game. What I mean by that is that if you go the full length back, mess up again, and try to rewind more, it won't let you. The tail end keeps progressing to keep you from cheesing it too hard. There were actually a few occasions where I locked myself into a death with the limitations of the rewind feature.
I was a little worried that I might be getting soft.
I'm not really upset that I went back into Gargoyles to re-explore some fun childhood memories. This game was special to me as a huge fan of the cartoon series, and I really like how they adapted the old graphics into a new art style that was so much closer to the animation. I also like that the old graphics and sounds are still there, and you can switch back and forth between them as much as you wish. I find it hard to credit the game for having a rewind feature, because I think it's simply a necessity to alleviate the frustration of a ridiculously hard game. It also doesn't fully alleviate that frustration because of its limitations.
You're taking this much too personally.
Gargoyles Remastered is an interesting walk down memory lane, but you better be ready to have any rose-colored glasses shattered by its unforgiving gameplay if you take that walk. Hey folks, if you enjoyed this video review, be sure to hit that like, subscribe, notification button. It's 3 small clicks for you, but means the world to us. For more video reviews and everything else gaming related, you're already in the right place. You're on Shacknews.com.